Today I'll be giving you a quick but comprehensive rundown of everything you need to know about Hornet before you dive into Silksong so that you can have a better appreciation for our needle-wielding friend. Whether you've played Hollow Knight before and just need a lore refresher, or Silksong is going to pop your team cherry, then you're in the right place. In Hollow Knight, Hornet makes multiple appearances over the course of the knight's journey, and if you pay close enough attention to what she has to say, along with the Dreamnail dialogue you can uncover during the game, you get a much better understanding of her motivations and backstory. Let's start right from the beginning and talk about how Hornet came to be born. Rather than being a child born out of romance between lovers, she was the product of a deal struck by Herrah the Beast, the queen of the spider tribe of Deepnest, and the Pale King, ruler of Hallownest. At this time, an infection was spreading throughout Hallownest, and the Pale King had a plan to contain the infection by means of using a vessel, which are the progeny of the Pale King and the White Lady, who is the queen of Hallownest. The Hollow Knight was thought to be the vessel capable of containing the infection, but over time it became clear he was not a truly pure vessel, and so the Pale King recruited 3 beings referred to as Dreamers to seal away the Hollow Knight inside of the Black Egg. Herrah the Beast is one of these such Dreamers, alongside Lurien the Watcher and Monomon the Teacher, and by entering an eternal sleep, their combined power would be enough to contain the infection. For Herrah to agree to play a part in the king's plan, however, she demanded that the king provide her with an heir as she was a widow. The king agreed to her terms, and shortly after they got down and dirty, Hornet was born. Unfortunately, the mother and daughter had little time to spend together as Herrah was bound by her duty to serve as a dreamer and fell into her eternal slumber at the heart of Deepnest. Instead, the White Lady served as her stepmother, with dialogue that you get after acquiring the king's brand stating that she's a fierce foe, strong in mind and body, striking reflection of her mother. I never begrudged the worm's dalliance as a bargain. In fact, I feel some affection for the creature bird. So it's clear she understood the necessity of the deal and was capable of having positive feelings toward her despite not being her own spawn. In terms of specifics related to her upbringing, there aren't any conclusive details to what events in her past led to her appearance during the game. However, an AMA response from Ari Gibson gives a little more context to how Hornet got her name. The original concept was that she was born from Herrah, raised by the White Lady, and then trained by Vespa, the hive queen of the bee tribe, with the Latin word Vespa being a direct translation to hornet or wasp, hence Hornet's name, but there's no official confirmation within Hollow Knight itself to make this officially canon. It's worth noting though that when you speak to Vespa's ghost that she does say, "Small thing, I know you're kind," inferring that she has at the very least interacted with someone similar to the Knight. To that point, the reason Hornet and the Knight are similar in appearance is because they are indeed step-siblings, both sharing a father in the Pale King, but Herrah being Hornet's mother and the White Lady being the Knight's. This is further reinforced by the Sealed Siblings achievement that is activated by defeating the Hollow Knight with Hornet by your side, and the dialogue preceding the fight with Hornet calling the Hollow Knight their birth-cursed sibling. So what kind of role does Hornet play in the events of Hollow Knight? In the first half of the game, she serves as a type of gatekeeper, somewhat testing and challenging the Knight's resolve to see if he's worthy of going down this path of destroying the infection, something Hornet appears to be against initially, most likely due to it requiring her mother, Herrah, to die in order for this to happen. She's also a critical character for delivering exposition that reveals more about the infection and provides clues that can help guide the Knight towards key story objectives. While initially skeptical of his intentions and abilities, we'll see her attitude towards Ghost change over time as he proves himself more capable than she thought. Ghost is the name in which he refers to the Knight and is the origin of this name for him across the fandom in case you see him called that anywhere else. If you go through the extensive trouble of acquiring the Dreamnail before your first encounter with Hornet, she will provide a few lines including, "Only pity for your cursed kind," implying that she's aware that the Knight is a vessel with the purpose of containing the infection, and since he's an empty vessel, Ghost seems to be a fitting nickname to bestow upon him. If you're as excited to play Silksong as I am and you want the most in-depth coverage of lore, in-game mechanics, and strategy possible, then consider subscribing. This will be my primary focus for the near future, and I'm going all in on Silksong. Hornet's first appearance takes place in Greenpath early on in the game, where you'll see her multiple times before eventually entering an arena where your first direct interaction with her hints at the awakening of the Hollow Knight that we see happen during the opening cutscene of the game, and marking the start of the spread of the infection that is no longer fully contained. She is also aware of the Knight's mission to stop this spread, but isn't willing to let him proceed, leading to the first battle between the two. Nothing more happens after defeating her here. Our second encounter with her at the Fountain Memorial in the City of Tears has her direct the Knight towards Kingdom's Edge, again implying that she knows a lot about what is necessary to destroy the infection, but she's still not truly an ally to Ghost since we'll fight her one more time after this. She also hints that it's here in the City of Tears that you'll understand the sacrifice that keeps it standing, which is almost certainly referring to the fact that Lurien the Watcher, one of the three dreamers, lies at the top of the city in his eternal slumber, playing his role in sealing away the Hollow Knight and the Black Egg, who has absorbed the infection. As the knight makes his way towards the Kingsbrand in Kingdom's Edge, Hornet tests him once again to see if he's strong enough to walk the path, and that if he's not, she'll feel no remorse in taking him down. Upon defeating her for the second time, Hornet's opinion of Ghost has changed. She's now more confident in his ability and is willing to let him continue onward, but still questions whether he would actually do what's required of him were he to fully understand the sacrifice he would need to make as a vessel. Dream nailing her at this stage also reveals her changing thoughts. When you finally acquire the Kingsbrand, Hornet will rescue Ghost, marking what I believe to be the true turning point of her becoming more of an ally than a skeptical acquaintance. After you acquire the Shade Cloak in the Abyss, Ghost will bump into Hornet on his way out, and she'll reveal a little bit more of their origins, hinting that he is born from the void and that the hollowness he bears makes him a vessel while she is not. Her tune has changed once again to an even more positive one towards her faith that the knight can accomplish his mission. Her final line here, however, makes it known that there's more than one option for the knight. Either he can contain the infection and keep the world in a perpetual state of holding the infection at bay and simply taking over the Hollow Knight's role as vessel, or we can destroy the infection altogether. Our final interaction with Hornet before the end of the game is where, after defeating Herrah in the dream world, we get to hear Hornet share her thoughts on her mother and the matter. She wasn't going to get involved in our breaking of Herrah's seal, but it still caused her some pain in spite of not having a real relationship with her mother. Hornet's grateful for the life she was given and now feels obligated to honor her sacrifice, which we'll see her fulfill at the end of the game. Exhausted dialogue here has Hornet asking for a moment to grieve her dead mother before her bedchamber becomes a shrine. Dream nailing her shows Hornet's continually growing faith that there's indeed a solution to containing or destroying the infection altogether. Our final true encounters with Hornet takes place outside the Black Egg, with Hornet stating she's impressed with the knight's resolve to take on the task of dealing with the infection. Upon unsealing the Black Egg, Hornet says she wouldn't join us in risking her life to battle the Hollow Knight, but that if an opening presents itself, she would be willing to aid us where possible, which she does. Hornet's aware of her limitations as one that is not a vessel, but she's at least open to assisting Ghost, which is quite the change from our first encounter with her, where she said she had no reservations about killing us and was going to stop us from actually doing this. The final dialogue line we get from Hornet is, "Ghost of Hallownest, you possess the strength to enact an end of your choosing. Would you supplant our birth-cursed sibling, or would you transcend it?" Again, hinting at the possibility of two endings where we simply take over the Hollow Knight's role containing the infection, or defeating the infection within it and battling the Radiance. Dream nailing poses the question of if he could do the impossible and defeat the infection, should he? There are additional dialogue lines in Godhome when you fight Hornet in the Pantheon of the Sage or the Pantheon of Hallownest, mostly with Hornet expressing confusion around why this is happening, but they're ultimately unrelated to the main story. And this makes up pretty well all the interactions we can encounter with Hornet in Hollow Knight, but there are a couple more things to break down regarding her character and relations to others in Hallownest. We know that the Knight is related to Hornet, and by extension all of the siblings of the Abyss and the Hollow Knight as well, but how old is Hornet in relation to them? Presumably, Hornet should actually be the youngest in the family compared to Ghost and the Hollow Knight, as the Pale King didn't begin to enact his plan of recruiting dreamers like Herrah until after realizing that the Hollow Knight was not a pure vessel that could completely contain the infection, and the White Lady and Pale King had stopped creating vessels before this point in time as well. Therefore, Hornet is the little sister of the family despite being larger than Ghost. It's not exactly clear why the Knight is so small in comparison, but perhaps Herrah's genetics had a much stronger contribution to size than the White Lady, making Hornet larger in a shorter amount of time. Then again, thinking about how much time has passed since the Hollow Knight was initially sealed away to where we are now, it's quite possible that many decades have passed, so you would have thought that both of them would have reached maturity size by then, so perhaps the genetic theory isn't quite as sound unless Ghost went into some sort of stasis during his time away, which would have stopped his growth, or that simply was as large as he was going to get, as there doesn't seem to be any necessary rhyme or reason to the maximum size of any particular vessel. In terms of her demeanor, we can see from the interactions throughout the game that she's a pretty no-nonsense character that is ready to throw down if they deem it necessary. Moving with grace and agility, Hornet is quite a bit more nimble than the Knight is by default, and we can see that she cranks her mobility up to 11 during the Silksong trailer, making use of her dress to float and pulling herself to structures using her needle and thread as well. In Hollow Knight, we've seen her use those spiky threads in combat against ghosts, and those are making their return alongside a whole new arsenal of weaponry for her to use in Silksong. And let's not forget, she actually talks unlike the Knight, so it'll be interesting to see if Shaw makes a grand return in Silksong, and if Hornet will actually respond to NPCs rather than blankly staring at them. Other than that, this is just about everything you could possibly need to know about Hornet before jumping into Silksong. I hope you learned something new about our upcoming protagonist today. If you found the video helpful, consider dropping a like to appease the algorithm gods, or dropping a Shaw in the comments. I'll be streaming my entire 100% playthrough of Silksong, and we'll be trying to fully complete it without sleeping, so tune in here on YouTube or Twitch. It'll be a fun time. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Shaw!